You make a connection with the things around you. When you're going out walking, you make a connection with nature. You realize how small you are among all the trees. Or you make a connection to your friends. The connection is so good that your friend almost knows what you're thinking and know what you're going to say before you even say it. But that's the connection that we have with not only the horses, but the animals around us. The deer, the owls, the buffalo. We have that connection with these horses. But you don't make that connection by being around him. He makes the connection with you, and that's when you realize, this horse is my friend. That all started going away when the Europeans, they started slowly dividing that connection that we had with nature. And all the animals they considered wild are part of that. So we can't go against anything of nature. When you go against that, then you will go against essentially your people.
I come from a small community in Oglala, South Dakota, which is on the western end of the Pine Ridge Reservation. Within the school system, there were a lot of stories told about the horses. Particularly one that I always heard was Battle of Little Bighorn, Pejishla. Without the horse, they wouldn't have won that battle. They were part of it. They went hand in hand. The stories that were told of, great leaders like Crazy Horse, Sitting Bull, Gull, Red Cloud, all those are part of growing up. For me, that's what instilled, I guess, my pride into who I am today, by hearing those stories. A big part of that was the horse. The horse was held in high esteem, high regards. So songs were created, the horse regalia was created. All of that comes part of growing up there in Oglala. Like when I was in grade school, I did a lot of drawings with the horse. I always looked through books, just to see the horse. That's where it kind of started with the horse. There was just something about the horse that drew me to that. So I started drawing, painting as I started getting older. So, as in high school, probably around 18, with my grandma, that's where I kind of got the inspiration to do the beadwork and quill work. My grandma, she was born, I believe it was 1912. And there was still ties from the 1800s into the early 1900s. So she knew a lot of stories that come from there, even as far as creating beadwork. And one of the techniques that I learned from my grandma was prior to needles and thread, they use the plum needle from the plum tree. So you string up your beads, put it in there, and you pull it, and it's basically the old technique of beading. Her vision wasn't as well as it used to be, so she would explain to me how to bead something or to do the quill work or how to tan a hide. And that was just all verbal. So I learned by doing it by myself, getting on it, getting some beads, doing that, doing the technique with the quill wrap or applique work with the quills and also with the tanning of the hide. Oh, they needed a saddle pad of stirrups.
Should, then you should go look in like the one, like I bought at Marty's, got some stirrups and everything.
Yeah, I've seen those online. You can get them online. I think it was about 2005. My nephew passed away, so we were doing a honoring and a remembrance for him for like 4 years after his, passing. I created a few things for each year to be given away, and on that 4th year, we gave away the horse regalia. The floats started going, and they started singing a song. And that song was my nephew's grass dance song. And in that song is his name, Tachunku Waka. And the horse would neigh at the same time. And it'll be right here. And at that moment right there, the horse, they say Akisha, Akishasha. And throughout this video here, his name is said 4 times, and each time the horse would neigh like that. So that's Woableza, which is a clear understanding of you might have seen something, you might have heard something, something might have happened, but that's what I seen was a Woableza that I was given to see that. So in the connection with the horse and honoring any of our relatives, that's where I step back to keep our tradition alive. I step back into that realm to bring that horse regalia back.
Horse regalia is dressing the horses in their very own regalia. You'll see they have their very own mask, they have a horse blanket, mane covers, they'll have a tail cover, a breast collar, so it's their very own attire. Horses, they'll wear it really, really proud, and we believe they know exactly what's happening to them. You'll see them sometimes a shift in their mood. Sometimes they may be high-strung, and then once you start dressing them, they know what's happening.
When I dress the horses, you can feel they're proud, that something comes over them because even the way they stand is an eye-opener to people that really pay attention to what's going on. A lot of the people there haven't seen a horse dressed in 100 years. So when we dressed this horse in that manner, I think it brought out a pride in the people to see that, because our ancestors did it at one time.
There's no other word besides amazing is what it does. When we dress a horse, the horse knows, and he can sense what he's used for and what his purpose is. It's a totally different experience. The horse is in like another state of mind, like he's meditating.
There are many reasons why it can be created. One, for instance, is, to honor the horse for what the horse brought to our people and what the horse does for our people. Traveling, hunting, in warfare, and even in races, we have traditional horse races. They were also created for giveaways. Part of the culture, generosity was one of the main virtues. And by creating something like that to give away was priceless. And it was given out of love, that creation, that time put into that. It could be for a naming ceremony. It could be for a relative that has passed on. We give that away in honor of them. It could be for parades, to dress your horse and show the people what you think of your horse. It could be for horse rides. Today there's a lot of horse rides. Incorporating that regalia with the horse rides, it's showing the love for the horses and what the Shinkowakanayate does for the people.
The first time I seen horse regalia was in 2017 when James Starr came to Dakota Wichoha. We did a youth exhibition of his work. When he came out, he dressed one of the horses and all the other horses were watching from the fence. And the female horses were watching from the fence and the male horses were all dancing behind, watching him get dressed. And he really puffed up in honor. It was so amazing to see the effects of the horse regalia on the horse itself. Besides that, the beauty of it, as an artist, I fell in love right away with it.
The way we got started with horse regalia is Dakota Wichoha means Dakota way of life. So we work to revitalize the Dakota language and life ways, and one of the life ways that we focused on in 2014 was traditional Dakota art. And then also we have our youth programming that we utilize the shintanka, the horse. The symbols and the way the horse regalia is really the interpretation of the artist. It's their individual vision of the regalia. Some artists like to use traditional colors or ribbons. We do a lot of bells. In our dance regalia, we feature a lot of bells.
Within a culture, there are some dances that require, or depending on the person that is wearing a mask, there was a reason for that. But that's between the person and the creator. The spirit of that is what is on the mask. So when that is put on, the power in that could go on to the person and they'll feel that power. And also same with the horse. They'll feel that connection with Kashiwa, So that's where the mask is a very important part of our culture. This particular mask here, I did a collaboration with Jim Yellowhawk, who did the imagery on this. The wording on there is from a Lone Man. He's a Lakota, and it's a warrior to his horse. My horse be swift in flight, even like a bird. My horse be swift in flight. Bear me now in safety, far from the enemy's arrows, and you shall be rewarded with streamers and ribbon of red. So his communication with the horse, he's talking about, get me through this battle, and I would decorate you with ribbons. Some of the masks, they would put lightning on them. The thunder and the lightning are pretty fierce, You can see a thunderstorm coming and the fierceness that it has. When the storm comes, it could be very frightening, but when it passes, it's very gentle. It's clear skies and it's real calm. So are the horses, are the same way in that same manner. They can be fierce, but they're also gentle. And as far as the buffalo, it plays a big role in our way of life. Our spirituality is based on the buffalo. He provided shelter, tools, food. We're considered the the buffalo people, just because of that, what the buffalo brought. Every time I pull it out, he's like, yeah. He smells like buffalo. It goes to our creation story that the buffalo is our brother, you know, and that's where we extend from. So that's an important part of our culture. You add that to the horse and what the horse represents and brings to our people, you combine them and it brings strength to us. This one here is the work in progress. I still need the beadwork here on the sides.
Yeah. Can I take a picture of it?
Yeah, good.
Let me put it on first. Let me put it on and show you. Gotta snort too, Don.
Yeah, you can't just have it on like that. Yeah. Snort around.
Wow, that's really cool, man. Really cool. Feel the power.
When I create things, I like to focus on older traditional style beadwork, not so much the contemporary. I guess keeping it more true to my relatives of the past and keeping that alive instead of trying to change into contemporary. I like to use a lot of the older techniques or even the older material that was used just to recreate that. I have these brass spots that I work with. And also I use some of the mirrors too. What you see here is the mirrors. And this particular piece here, I'm going to probably incorporate similar pieces like this to it, where I'm going to attach the mirrors in there and maybe attach a few of the bells on the bottom, or maybe similar to what you see here. My technique is I basically just go right off the strand, and what I'll do is I'll just, however many beads I need from that strand, I'll pull off, and that's it. So I'm not sitting there picking. And my technique pretty much changed over the years, because initially when I first started beading, I would spill like a strand of these beads into a bowl, and I'll be sitting there picking from there. But what changed, it was kind of funny, is because these are size 11 beads. And I did a piece where I used size 13s, and 13s are much smaller than this. And my hand cramped from picking up those little beads. And I said, that's the last time I do 13s, because it was too small of a bead for me to handle, because even the needle was shorter. I do a lot of research on old photos of regalia from back when, the beadwork of back when. That's where I get my inspiration to keep that going, because it really brings something to who we are as a people. That's why I try to stick to this, even the ribbon behind it. When they first came in contact with the traders, that was one big thing, was they really liked the ribbon. So there was a time period where it kind of changed to where they started adding ribbon to the beadwork. And also like the cloth started changing. We relate to the horse, the Shinko-akan. We refer to him as a relative, as a nation, the horse nation, Shinko-akan Oyate. We refer all animals as a nation, the buffalo nation, Pte Oyate, Hechaka, the elk nation. And all these nations help us in our ceremonies, and also in our belief system, our virtues, everything that we have as a people. The old Akichita Okolakiche, the warrior societies, they had the horses. To honor the horse, their favorite horse, they would create these dance sticks out of wood. And they would decorate with feathers, horsehair, little brass bells, brass tacks. And at some time, during battle, maybe the horse was killed. So he would honor that horse in that way. They would get the horsehair from the horse and they would put it on the dance stick. So in certain times of dances, he would dance with that, remembering his horse. If it was killed in battle, then we carve symbols of blood, gunshot wounds or arrow wounds that, that'll show that on a dance stick. They would also carry it like when they're riding horses, they would have quartz, it's kind of like a whip. And sometimes they'll put a horse head on the quart, or the original dance stick was just a hoof with a head. Things evolve. This is more of a contemporary piece, but it comes from the original traditional sense. That's where I like to keep the past and the present as one. I understand that times change, but we still have to keep that part of us to teach our children and future generations that it's important to know why we do things, why we create things, and what they're used for in, it could be social dances, it could be in ceremonial dances, but those are important key points to understand why things are created. With those creations, there's stories behind many things that are created. So when I create things, I must know and understand why those things are made and have an understanding before I create something. But I have to know what I'm creating, and that's part of passing on culture.
I just know that the horse has been with us for a very, very long time, and that there was a time when they'd go into war, even the horses were acknowledged as a warrior. They would paint them, or they would put the feathers on them. They were part of them too. They're not just an animal. There's something more than that. And sometimes it's hard to put into words, but there's something different about them. They have a power, they have a strength.
There's somebody you can always rely on and trust. They bring you a good feeling. They take away what's really bothering you at the time. Being with them is like being free. Free from struggles, from life, just from everything that bothers you, you're free when you're with this one horse. It's a bond that is kind of magical because he knows what you want, you know what he needs, and you guys make one. You guys make a whole.
Horses are really sacred to Native American people because of the fact that our ancestors, they had horses. Horses died with us, in war. They sacrificed for us, and they took our people across the plains, and so there's always been that bond there going back to when our ancestors were here. We've just always had a lot of respect for horses because of that fact, and because they were putting their life on the line with us. And I think we're reclaiming a lot of the old traditions now that we once had with the horses.
Me, myself, growing up, I was aware that horses were a part of our landscape. They were a part of our lifestyle. I know historically they were very important to our peoples. They were a doorway. They were a symbol of connection. I think they were a healer. They were providing individuals with opportunities to strengthen their skills on how they interact with others, whether that's with a horse, or whether that's with their family, or whether that's with their organization. All of these ways that we interact with life. I understood that the horse is something that's very, very magnificent, very transcendent. It's something practical. It's something that we can rely on for whatever needs we may have, hauling objects, transporting us to wherever we need to go. But then it also had this other dimension to it where it provided this greater good to an individual. That shows itself in all kinds of ways to whoever it may be. You know, somebody's going to make a connection to it differently. Somebody might connect to it through an artistic sense. You know, they might find some sort of visual element that inspires them and then leads them to some sort of action.
This next song I'm going to share is a song that when you bring in a horse, like James was talking about, giving that horse away. This is a horse that is yours, and the word says you would use the Indian name. In this, I'm going to use James's Indian name because he's the one that's putting on the presentation here. And Wichachpe, Hinamka. So I'm going to use his Indian name in this one. And it says, Star comes out, comes saying this. This is my horse. Means this is my horse that I'm going to chase away, let go. That says, people, take a look at it. Take a look at my horse. This horse is worth having. And so I'm going to share this song, and it kind of has a slower beat because this is the beat that you would use to bring the horse in.
The horse is connected to we as a people, and also with the drum is like a heartbeat. The singing also and the words are in Lakota. There was a time that we were able to communicate with horses in that way. The horses still have that. So when those drums go and they start singing, these horses are connected to nature more than we are as people.
My grandfather owned a lot of horses. The different older people that I talked to said he owned over 300 head of horses. Bred quarter horses and thoroughbreds together to get a fast horse, but also a good cow horse, as they needed at that time. Because of the different acts that the government put on Native peoples, that slowly went out of existence.
Post-reservation, a lot of the names were changed too. We had all the individual Lakota names or Dakota names, and those were addressed in that manner, so we never really had last names. So even our children, when they were born, they would never take on our name unless it was passed down in a ceremony to where they can take that name. As the government started enrolling, creating tribes, they put the system of where we were given last names. My last name is Wichachwe Hinapcha, which is Star comes up. But that was one of my great-grandpa's, that would be my great-great-grandpa's last name. So that was kind of passed down each generation. But he had siblings, their names are totally different. So his siblings, his kids, that name was passed down according to the BIA, which BIA is the Bureau of Indian Affairs. They enrolled everybody and gave them surnames, and each tribe has a BIA, and when someone is born, they give them a U number. So we are, tracked. The Lakota way of the family system is, you could say aunt or uncle. It would be my parents' aunt or uncle. Those are changed into, those are our grandparents. And even like my cousin, my first cousin, I would call him Chie or Misu, which is a younger brother or brother, older brother. That's part of it that I like to express to people, that we need to follow back, because we call each other rather by our names, but rather by our family relation. So you would say Ate, Ina, or Lekshi, Tchumi, Misu, Tchahanshi. And when you refer like that, it brings back a respect that we have as a family, because whole system of the tribe is based on family. My dad's coming up from north, up in what you know now is North Dakota, South Dakota border, where they have the Standing Rock Reservation. I have Hunkpapa, Sichangru, Oglala descent. So that's, it's good to know that, and today a lot of our young people do not know where their bloodline comes from. So I always try to encourage young people to find out where their names come from, what those names mean, and who their relatives are. Because that's going to strengthen our people to know who they are. And that's really important. That's the thing that growing up, that's what I've known. Today, I know who I am, where my bloodline is. Reservations are allotted individuals' land, so that's also identifies who owns that part of land. And even those are numbered sections. My number is 27206, and that's how they identify me. To say that I am Oglala Lakota, I have to present that number to prove that I am.
I live at my grandparents' allotment that was given to them in the 1800s. I think they started allotting land in the 1880s. My grandfather didn't actually live there where I live. They lived along the White River in the Badlands. That's where my grandfather and my father and his brothers and sisters grew up. In 1942, when they started the bombing range in the Badlands, everybody that lived there was forced off their land.
I live out in the country. My family's originally from Porcupine, South Dakota. They still live in the area. It's where your family is, and that's what feels comfortable, and that's what feels nice. And you can always have a home to go to, have a comforting area of where to go and escape to. On the other hand, it also has its difficulties and its struggles with just existing here.
When I was real young, I rode horse on Oglala with my relatives out there, and for years I stopped riding. Having the opportunity to come out here whenever I can, I really appreciate it, and I encourage any of those who want to ride to come. We're planning to get all of Percy's horses out here. I think there's 40 of them, and get our nieces and nephews, our grandchildren, our relatives to ride and heal together.
I was away from home, from my people for 17 years. And there was times I'd get homesick or I'd be going through something, and I could be on my horse and I could just tell it everything. Every time I come back from a ride, I feel strong. I feel, okay, I can do this. I just want to be strong and be the best that I can be as a woman, because there's younger people. There's young women out there, there's young mothers out there that need people to be strong for them too.
A lot of our women rode alongside our men when we were free on this land, and we were warriors. And with the dominant society, they've taken that away from us. They've put us in roles that are less than what we were used to being. But we have those strengths within us, and that's what the horse ride, I think, for many of us helped us to recognize again was our physical strength, how strong we are riding on these horses, you know, our spiritual strength, connecting with the horses and healing us. It's a part of me, it's inherent of me. My great-grandmother, Jenny Bad Yellow Eyes, she was a horseback rider, she was a trick rider. She rode on the Wild West show with her uncle Sitting Bull. Currently, it's regaining a part of myself that as a mother and a wife, you know, my role was to raise my family and I did that. And now I get to go and be out with the horses again and ask for that healing that I need. You know, I believe that I'm receiving it through the horse that I ride.
I'm still going to keep going, getting strong and keep supporting our way. And I want our children to be strong in the future. I want a good life for them. And if it takes us healing as women to get there, then yeah, let's just keep going.
Okay. Trotting all the way home, they said. Go down, boy. Keep going. Go down.
A lot of people just know that we're a horse family and we like just being involved with different communities and helping out wherever it's needed. We've had other communities come over to our ranch and we've put on horse camps for them. My dad and I, we've gone out to Washington, D.C. and we've been a part of a horse ride out there that was protesting the Keystone XL pipeline back in 2014. I mean, we just get very involved in a lot of things and, you know, our horses, they kind of go all over the place with us. Having horses has opened a lot of doors for not just me individually, but for my family, for the program I work with, Dakota Wichoha. One of the things is, so not only the horse regalia, but the Dakota 38+2 ride, which is a memorial ride for the 38 Dakota warriors that were hung in 1862 in Mankato, Minnesota. And 2 years later, 2 more Dakota warriors were captured and hung. Having horses, we're able to be a part of that memorial ride. My family, we used to do Christmas and presents and all that, and it hasn't been like that now for over 10 years. We dedicate our time to this memorial ride. Now we're able to take some of the youth that are in part of the Dakota Wichoha program. A lot of them now are becoming really, really amazing riders, and so they're able to handle this long memorial ride, and we're able to take youth and expose youth to this because it's something powerful and sacred, and it's good to be a part of.
In 97, 98, I worked at a youth shelter, it was called. It wasn't a shelter, it was more like a holding pen for the youth before they went to treatment. I started bringing the youth from the shelter out to ride horse. And when they came out, they didn't want to go home, to go back to the shelter. Not only at that time, but years before then, I realized and I noticed the effects it had not only on myself, but the young people that I was with, and how it helped them to take notice of themselves and what they do to better themselves, how they can better themselves. So it was really a eye-opener for me.
I feel like when I first started riding horses, it was kind of just more of like a hobby. I've definitely grown closer to horses, and I've definitely connected with another side of my culture, because now I'm able to be a part of different things that involve my culture, like the horse regalia. So that's allowed me to learn another part of my culture that I never knew before. I mean, I just made my first horse regalia last year, and being a part of the Dakota 38+2 Memorial Ride, that allows me to be around my people, to learn more about the history of my people, and to just keep learning teachings.
In 2019, I was teaching at the Red Cloud High School for about a week on the horse mask. But that's more of kind of the contemporary piece. Although I do traditional, I like doing the more contemporary. It keeps everything balanced, you would say.
James is able to bring his Lakota background into the classroom for a week, and kids really connect with that. It's a totally different style. It's unique. Of course, painting and drawing that are traditional are great, but when you can bring something as original as these horse masks in, it's really unique.
James loves to come into the classrooms and work with our students here at Red Cloud and other schools. He knows how important it is to help pass on the knowledge of the relationship between the horse and the human, especially for Lakota people. And so he comes and talks with students about his artwork, about what that relationship is all about.
A lot of them could do the beadwork, they could do applique work, anything artistic. And the part of it that I enjoyed was that, sharing the skills that I do have as far as the regalia. All this horse regalia was self-taught. I went out, took the measurements from a horse, and just kind of added my own, my creation to the horse regalia.
James is one of our artists. He works with us a lot in our exhibitions that we put on and organize. He was an instrumental part of our large exhibition called Horse Nation of the Oceti Sakowin.
The exhibit ran from 2016 and actually just finished up this past spring. So it was a 3-year exhibit, but it was about 2 or 3 years prep before we actually had an entire exhibit. So it's a very long, lengthy process. And we're not doing this exhibit for everyone. We're doing it for the Native communities, which is always something we stressed. especially when producing a lot of the text panels. It's like, oh, we have to explain what Ocheti means, we have to, but it's like, wait, we're not doing this for them. We're not doing this for a non-Native audience, we're doing this for Native people. So kind of creating that, like just an environment where Native people can come in and just have that feeling that, oh, this was made for me, this was made for us. It's not to be selective, it's just like we just need that time and that place and that stage and platform to be presented on.
The painting I'm most connected to is this one. It's because it's a good representation of what is sacred to us, you know, the woman and the horse. A long time ago, before generations, there was this woman who came and brought us our prayers, you know, our way of life. And she brought it in a way that was so generous that, you know, like a mother would do to you. And with the horse and her, she's caring for it. And they have each other. And this really made my whole day. And I'm thankful for that.
You realize that, wow, this really did have an impact. When you go to other museum conferences, they're struggling so hard to like actually interact with tribal communities. Like they have objects from other tribal communities and they don't understand why they're in such an uproar about how they're being treated and how they're being cared for and taken care of. There's this really huge disconnect between museums and tribal communities. So this exhibit, having it being community-led, is like a really huge step for the museum world of how we treat and acknowledge Native communities.
I'm hopeful that this can open up doors to everybody, so they can come in first by seeing, you know, oh, I like horses, you know, I like this horse, you know, I have my own story with the horse. And when they come in, then they start to learn a little bit more about, you know, authentic truths.
There's a lot of value in passing on this knowledge, and I think more than anything, it taps into identity. That is something that has at one point been repressed and has been tried to erase, and it brings it back. And when you bring back identity, you bring back self-esteem, you bring back an energy that can and wants to do something and makes a change, and make a change in life.
My family, my mother's family, is from Wharton, but we grew up in Minneapolis. And so I moved back to the reservation in 1991 when I was 19 years old. So this is a real awakening for me to being involved at Dakota Wichoha and just with being a Dakota person. I'm learning every day too, along with the youth and the families. I'm learning the language, I'm learning the life ways. Reconnecting with my culture is just reinforced the sense of belonging to the tribe and the community. It's also been healing, mind, body, and spirit. We call that Wichozani. And so it's just a healing of the spirit. Makes you feel connected to your ancestors.
We need to tell our stories today. And I mean, we always have to make sure that our stories are heard from the past, but it's very important that we tell, you know, the stories today, because that's what's going to encourage the following generations to understand that what they do is relevant to today. You know, they don't have to sit within confinements of assumptions of who they are or what they can do. They can really start to step up and say that, you know, they can take ownership over whatever they want to, you know, express. I actually sit on our South Dakota Arts Council board, and my goal of sitting on that board is to try to encourage our state to understand the dynamic possibilities when we invest in the community and allow them to like really start to see what art can be and listen to our communities to see what art is. A lot of the times we frame assumption of what art is based off of other sources. So when we have this opportunity to hear the authentic voice say what art is, I think that that's going to reveal some really awesome opportunities.
Bringing the regalia back alive, it brings spirit and power and reassurance to the people that we're still the same and we can still carry on and do what we got to do. It's like a strength thing. It helps us be strong. It brings forward emotions and helps deal with a lot of problems we deal with. It gives you goals. It helps you set an achievement or a goal you'd like to do or you'd like to see to better other people and yourself. That's how I see the horse regalia helping us.
While I was working on my regalia, it was very relaxing and fulfilling, and I wondered what I was going to do when I was done. The vision that I had from my regalia, there's many more after that.
For the women riders, it's about healing. You know, we have so many, not only current traumas, but we carry generational traumas. You know, I have relatives that were in the Wounded Knee Massacre. They say that we can carry these hurts generation to generation, but we can also heal them too. So when I'm out here, I'm praying and thinking about the future generations. You know, and we talk about having a healing ride for the children and strengthening them. They're our future, they're our next generations. Our nation can be strong and healthy once again, and I believe that our horse relatives can help us to do this.
Through the horses, we want to make the children so where they have confidence, their self-esteem comes up. So when that confidence and self-esteem is up to here, they can make a choice and walk another path that will lead them towards a better future. Horse spirit is about giving and strengthening our children, not only our children, but men and women.
Good boy. Really good. Good boy.
There's so many artists in this area, like a lot of my cousins, my aunts, my uncles, like everybody's artists. So it runs real deep in our family history. I'm super happy to see that it's getting more out and shown to not just this community.
Shikila means kind of like compassion, like cherish. I cherish this, I love this. So I felt like that was also very important. That's what everybody was basically saying, is that they do these things because it's important. You know, it's also bringing a sense of like humility to people.
We have some 2D artists, 3D artists, you know, different types of media here. But I think what we're sharing here is about the horse, so it doesn't necessarily have to be one way.
It really has demolished egos working with the horse, I felt. You know, these projects have really brought people together, understanding that the horse was key and central to everything. People were secondary. So no longer this big old idea of like a pyramid scheme where everybody's at the top, the individual, the person's at the top. That was kind of reversed, and then everybody was at the bottom, kind of holding up, you know, these things that are important and have always been important and held us up as well too.
In 2005, I drew what I envisioned of the horse regalia. And to this day, I still have that drawing. And I keep it at hand because I look at that and I look back to what that meant to me. It brings me the inspiration to keep going what I'm doing. Why I do it is because of who I am, what I grew up with. having the obligation to share to my relatives and to the world what I can share, and that's art. And a big part of it is the horse regalia. By creating that, it's bringing what we have to today. And I want to leave something behind for my relatives, generation coming. I feel it was my purpose to create this horse regalia for them.